Hi, everybody. Thank you all for joining us for this session. We're going to start our webinar on personalization, and I'm personally very psyched for this. This is going to be a really hands-on session about the practicality and approaches to personalization and personalization strategy. I have Hallel with me. Hi, Hallel.
Hey Avishai, hi everyone.
And we have Meital with us as well. Hi, Meital.
Hi.
So maybe I'll start just kind of with what's the purpose and what's the objective that we had in mind building this webinar. And that was that at the end of it, I'd say the main takeaway that we wanted you to have is to be able to understand, depending on the stage and the maturity level on the maturity of the GTM of your company, what would be the optimal personalization strategy for you? Because a lot of times we come across companies that are using the wrong approach for their stage. So what we thought would be really impactful, really helpful, was to discuss the capabilities and the options in personalization, but in the context of different company stages and different maturity stages. So that really is what we'll be discussing. We'll be sharing, of course, different capabilities and different ways of doing personalization on the website, as well as what are the things that we've seen work less optimally or less that are less effective, although we see people continuing and doing them. So we wanted to also address those points. All right, so let's jump in. Just for those of you who don't know, Trendemon, we are a website experience optimization platform dedicated to B2B companies, B2B websites. We're helping turn maze to a maze. We're helping guide visitors on the website through automated content recommendations, calls for actions, page personalization, and so forth. And you can see at the bottom a bunch of our customers. And the reason I'm also mentioning this is that a lot of the insights that we will share come from customers actually using those different capabilities throughout the platform. So we will have some data to share about the performance of them. And then to understand a bit how it works, so the first thing that we do is we help understand how accounts, visitors are moving through your website, how they're transitioning from stage to stage, if it's different accounts, different industries, different audiences. And then through personalization, we are effectively improving the transition rates, the conversion rates between visitors, proceed to high intent, down to conversion pipeline. So that's it. That was about trending. So Khaled, let's jump right to it. What is personalization?
That's a good question. Me and my team, we're working with so many companies, and every time we ask it, we get sometimes different answers. So I think it's good to define how we see personalization, website personalization. So, in high level, it's about making sure that the right content will be presented to the right person at the right time. What does that mean? You have different visitors to your website in different stages of their buyer journey, different industries, different ICPs. And you have a lot of assets, which is great, but you must make sure that the ones that each visitor will see the right one, depending on where he is. And that's about personalization. And again, as Avishai mentioned at the beginning of this session, there's many ways to do it, and it's hard. It's hard to do it manually. And there's a lot of solutions that you can use to automate for scalable results.
So we're gonna talk about some of these challenges and what would be worthwhile. But I think a deeper question is why even are we bothering with personalization? Because we feel like it's sometimes a headache. We don't have the bandwidth, the team, and so forth. And so really just very quickly wanted to show some key points from our latest study on buyer journeys, which one shows that we're seeing a continued decline in website conversion rates. So it is, and I think we're all feeling it. It is harder to sell in B2B. Buyers are flooded with information, flooded with solutions. So that's a challenge. Not going to get too much into this, the buying group is growing. We have statistics showing that it's growing from an average of 13 to over 15 people. However, they're reading less content. So our ability to capture their attention is diminishing, is reducing. So that's another fun part we have to address, and why we say that personalization is critical. And lastly, something that we're starting to see more and more is AI basically sucking a lot of that organic traffic that we used to rely on, because people are getting their answers already within either the Google search or from ChatGPT. So that is something that is also being discussed. All of it
I
basically
think,
says, yeah.
yeah, Abhishai, just one thing I think I would add here is that, as marketeers, we're mainly investing in bringing in the traffic, and we're trying to bring our best traffic, and we're paying good money for that. And we're also creating a lot of content. But it's not enough because you have so much content. It's just hard to surface that content. And these are like the reasons, and we see that from all of the studies that we do.
And you're going to hear a lot about content because we believe that it is a fundamental part of B2B go to market and a fundamental part of personalization because of that. But more on that later. So we talked about what is personalization. We talked about why we need it. The last really kind of high level point would be, where is it positioned? So just zooming out a bit, we are talking about the area of website optimization, naturally, which has three distinct kind of disciplines or pillars. SEO for organic search, performance. So that means the technical performance of our website, and experience optimization. So that really revolves around improving the business outcomes of our websites through improved conversion rates, engagement rates, and so forth. And within experience optimization, we usually had two approaches: experimentation, classic A/B testing, multivariate testing, and personalization, which is going to be the talk of this discussion. I would mention that in recent years, they have been kind of merging into single solutions. But just to kind of help orient us on where we are on that. Okay, introductions done. Let's talk about some struggles. So, working with a lot of different customers and different stages, what are the key pains that you see companies confront when it comes to personalization?
I would say that one of the main thing is bandwidth. Teams realize more than ever that personalization is needed. But it's still, difficult to do it if you don't have resources, if the team doesn't have the capabilities or the know-how of how to do it. So that's one major part. Another part, it's hard to measure personalization. You need to have some kind of measuring tool,
Yeah,
to really measure the website, and we're going to talk also about that. And of course, measuring how personalization is working. And there's a few things around all of these struggles that we hear the same song again and again from companies that we're working. And it leads at the end of the day to the fact that, or they're not doing personalization, or it's not effectively running. Yeah.
on the website. Okay. So, and that really leads to the fact that a lot of companies simply are just not doing, right? It's like all or nothing kind of approach, right? I don't have that, so not useful to do anything. And there is a cost for that. There's a cost for not doing. Cost is that as our buyers are becoming more frustrated and have lower attention, websites convert less. We're wasting our marketing spend that we've worked so hard to bring those visitors, those ICPs to our site, and we're missing on those revenue opportunities. So kind of stating the obvious, but really worth noting that lost opportunity there. So now let's cut to the chase. Foundations of effective personalization. We're going to start at a higher level and then go down to kind of more hands-on, brass tacks kind of stuff. So foundations of effective personalization. All right, Halil, take us through this.
Yeah.
Kind of what are we seeing there?
So again, one of the main important parts is to have a KPI. The website must have an objective. Why? For why do you have a website? What do you want to lead? For engagement, for conversion? It's okay even if it's just for top of funnel, from request demos and free trials and gated assets, but you must have a defined, clear objective. If you don't know what to optimize, right? So that's one thing that is very important. The other part is, and I mentioned it earlier, we're investing a lot in bringing in traffic. It's crucial to define your ICP, even if you're still a lean team. Understand the type of companies and personas that you want to attract once they visit to the website, defining them as a group, a part of all the visits of the website will just help you to understand how they are behaving and how you could increase that amount of engagement and conversion for them. Aligning your content. Again, in personalization, you're going to use a lot the assets that you have. They must be aligned to your messaging. Again, you can have lightweight content, you know how it is, all the way to bottom of funnel. All of these are super important because you can, take these assets and you're going to make sure that your traffic, your visitors will see that. And above it all, measure what matters the most, so you'll know how to improve. Like everything we do, we also must measure personalization and the website impact, regardless of personalization, so you'll know how to improve it. So these are like the key metrics that, again, any team, any size team, must have, or we recommend to have, before starting with personalization.
All right. So then the question is that we also get is really where do we start? Now let's get really practical and pragmatic about where we should start depending on where we are. So we wanted to introduce kind of the personalization maturity model. And again, the purpose here is to help you find yourselves, your own companies, your own go-to-market maturity level. And then we're going to be talking about specifics, which tactics and approaches work best for that specific stage. And we're going to be starting about from first gear, really, the foundations. So Halil, what do you define as a first gear kind of stage? And I'm also just adding here at the bottom things that will help you kind of align yourself. So we're talking about teams with 0 to low bandwidth for anything new, and with a low to medium GTM complexity. And what I mean by GTM complexity is the variety of different industries they're selling to, variety of products. So anytime you have a complex buyer journey, long, big buying group, that adds to that complexity of that go-to-market. So Khaled, for a first gear, for a first step, what do you see in those companies and what would you recommend?
Yeah, so Avishai, for these type of companies that are at that stage, again, if you're a small team or even a one-person marketing operation, the first goal is to automate your website personalization. And this means showing each visitor content that is relevant to them, based on simple segments, where they came from or how they behave on the website. The beauty of this approach is that it really requires minimal effort to set it up. You can automate all of that, but really can deliver much more tailored and engaged experience to every visitor. So again, for teams who don't have the bandwidth to tailor for each and every persona, this is there's great solutions that you can use for fully automating the website personalization part.
And I also want to just stress that we're not promoting, a specific tool or product. This isn't about Trendemons offering. There are things that you can also do without a dedicated personalization solution when it comes to mapping content on your website and serving it in different areas. A lot of tools on WordPress, a lot of plugins. And at the end of the webinar, we will be sharing a framework and tools and prompts of how to use, for example, ChatGPT to map website content to different audiences. So the goal is to really align and connect different vertical, different audiences with different content, but do this in an automated way. So it isn't a campaign motion which isn't that effective, as we'll see later on. And it isn't effective and it isn't scalable. I think scale really is the operative
Right.
term here. Zooming into second gear. So how does second gear look like? And who's it
So
for?
this is, yeah, I would say that the intermediate level is more about like segmentation and engagement for growing teams. So, when when your team is going to scale up, or even if your website becomes more richer in content, it's time to get more strategic when it comes to segmentation. So think about grouping your visitors from the traffic sources, industry, ICP, target list, anything that works for you, do that. Why? So now you can really personalize on that level. And beyond just to recommend them assets from your resources or product pages, start to think also about, strategic call to actions. You can really then identify companies that have a higher intent, what we call intent higher than zero, above visiting the website and engaging a little. So you can identify that, and then you can start to add some call to actions. So that's I would say so that's around companies for that size. That would definitely I recommend. As we move on to a more advanced teams about revenue driven and personalization with sales alignment. So this is where personalizations become more revenue driven. What does that mean? That in this stage you can connect your CRM. You can really see how the website and personalization impact pipeline, impact revenue. And you can really deliver experiences that adapt dynamically based on deal stages. You can do that in the page level. There's solutions like one-to-one and many other ones that you can really work in that way. Um,
All
yeah,
right. So now we want to get to actual tools, actual solutions that are relevant. And what we wanted to show here is basically correlation or connection between impact and effort. And one of the points that we wanted to help to kind of convey across is that there are some activities which have either a low impact and low effort versus others that have high impact and low effort and so forth, and connecting it to the gears that in the stages that we've discussed. So on one hand, we have kind of the very simple, right? Rule-based CTAs. You can find them on different tools. The big challenge with them is that even though they're low effort to set up, they're not very scalable. So they're not really supporting it. So their impact is rather limited. And then on the other side, as Helen mentioned, the process of automating the content, serving relevant content, even at a very basic scale, delivers a very significant uplift. We're talking about over 4.5 times more conversion to high intent from companies and that are doing it versus those that aren't. So there's a big value to be had and relatively low effort. So these are kind of the low hanging fruits that we typically recommend starting with. And then the second one on that, right? This is about starting to segment it, going
yep.
kind of to deeper levels of segmentation.
Right, exactly. Yeah. Again, bandwidth is one of the keys. So of course, if we want to add more capabilities, not capabilities, but more kind of segmentation, when it comes to setting up your personalization, some more thought needs to be in it, more alignment also with sales teams and stuff like that. But impact will be not only higher, but will also to touch more your pipeline down on funnel. So definitely.
And we'll be showing some live
Um,
examples of what each of them means. So don't worry that we're not going to stay just on the theoretical. And then the high impact, right? As we're transitioning to more complex GTM, to more specific areas that we want to personalize, then we're actually getting to what I think most people think about personalization when they think about it is changing elements in a page. I think that's one of those misconceptions that we've seen across the years, that there's this definition that I think is historic that came from the A/B testing world that says, okay, let's change the button of the color, or let's add an image there, and that is personalization. And we're saying there's a lot of stuff you should be doing before that, before getting to those micro tactical things, and of course expanding into sales. One surprising part is that sometimes we get requests, and we have that capability as well, to hyper personalize pages at the contact level. This is something that's very advanced, and we're seeing it provide value only once you've kind of went through the main motions there. A lot of times companies start here or start here, and they're saying, okay, we tried it, hasn't worked. I think we are at a point we have to consider scaling and leveraging this with low bandwidth, which I think all of our organizations are suffering from. So now let's just show some examples of what that actually looks like in real life. So this is from some of our customers. This is from Monday, starting from the simplest one. So automated content personalization. You can see at the bottom some examples. It doesn't have to be super slick, super gimmicky. It's something that really helps your buyers find the information. If you're doing that, you're already 90% there, right? That's the big objective.
right.
Hello, what's special about this? This looks like just a native banner in a page. What's special about this?
Well, yeah, this is a great example that even embedding banners, but to different personas and different ICP audiences, it's really powerful, and it works. And the idea here is that again, you can just tailor messaging to call to actions already, as we mentioned in the intermediate stage. So. This is a good example. This example from Checkpoint really talks about already book a demo. Now, we do not recommend for top of funnel visitors that are coming into the website the first time to show
Right.
them a book a demo banner, right? That's not going to work. Like advertising to demo requests sometimes don't work. From the same reason. Nurture is important and with content.
So we're now
But
layering in, so sorry to bump you, but we're layering in the identity aspect, right? So really talking about the different verticals, but also now layering in the stages, right? The buying stage of that account, of that visitor to help them in their specific position in the journey, right?
yep, exactly.
All right. Shifting gears, now third gear. We're starting to get more
Yeah.
sophisticated.
So this is types of page level personalization. You can actually see elements that you can change. You can change anything you want. If it's text, images, titles, buttons, you can do whatever you want to personalize for different to create basically different variations, all the way to the contact level, company level, segment, any level you want. You can do that. It does take some more work, but it works really good. But again, that's why we recommend this usually to right to a more sized team that can deal with these kind of
And,
things.
and I think it's important to say this augments your personalization. This isn't just the personalization, right? So doing just this isn't doing your buyers that service they need. The service your buyers need from you is getting the right information at the right time. Just changing a name or changing a title, that is cool. That is good. That can get them to get some to pay attention, but you have to follow with relevant data. Here's an example of tying it into sales. So this is a post-webinar curated sequence being sent after a webinar. This is by Tenable. Again, it can be automatically curated or pre-curated manually, it doesn't matter. But the fact is now sales is leveraging these tools, sales development, to get the right information in front of the buyers. So here's that example of how again we're expanding the team that is using that.
Abhishai, I think what's nice about all these examples, it's not only that we show different ideas or suggestions for different sizes of team, but also how personalization can really work very well for different stages of the buyer's journey, from top of funnel all the way to becoming a customer. So we talked about segmentations by ICP and target list, but then again, you can always segment them by level of engagement. And this example is fantastic because this can be for people that already came to, if it's a webinar or any kind of event, and after they've been here, after they already have contacts and everything, if it's a Marketo, HubSpot, Salesforce, and then you provide them some kind of streamlined assets that are relevant and tailored for
Existing,
them.
right, existing customers, retention, expansion. This doesn't stop at acquisition, right? It's not just about getting them to fill a form, right? We have to understand this is a fundamental part of your revenue generation process. um, Cool. So what we wanted to help here is we sometimes get companies who are really early stage. They want to ask, is the juice worth the squeeze, right? If where I'm at, it even makes sense to start kind of this journey into this. So, Hala, what are your recommendations there?
Yeah, so first of all, as mentioned in one of the slides before, having clear KPIs, clear objectives of the purpose of the website and what do you want to achieve is crucial. When it comes to see value for personalization, I recommend to start if your website is 5K monthly visits or above. And content is important. So if it's like, a website, a one-page website, or just a few pages of product pages, there's no journey. There's not going to be an actual journey, and therefore not necessarily personalization would be the right place to go for. So having these in
Mhm.
place is important to start off.
Okay. I want to do
Um,
something I haven't tried, so bear with me. I'm going to launch a survey. So hopefully you should be seeing a survey, and I'll be grateful if you could fill it, and we can, after the session, in just a few minutes, we can share some of the results and what are your what's top of mind for you, and how are you looking at personalization. Um, Continuing quickly about measuring or how to measure, and what we wanted to show here very quickly is our approach to demonstrating ROI. I think a big part is to convince leadership that this is something worth investing in. That's always a big and a difficult conversation.
Mhm.
So it starts with defining, right, the objectives from very kind of website levels to more ABM approach. Is our ICP visiting? Is it engaging down to pipeline? So those metrics are key, but you don't have to start with everything, right? It's just important to have some KPIs you're looking at. As for the approach that we're using at Trendemon to demonstrate the performance, is really about the incremental uplift. So what we're doing is we're constantly comparing two groups, one that has engaged with personalization versus those that didn't, and we're looking at how they are converting, how they're engaging quantitatively and qualitatively. So the uplift is, of course, qualitative. The number of goals or pipeline is quantitative, and that really makes the case very clearly to CFOs, to CEOs, to CROs that this is something that is providing results. And also provides us with a way to optimize. So, how do we optimize the optimization? How do we continuously improve that? Well, this is the framework that we're using, and it is super effective. Um, Lastly, I just wanted to, we're just at time. And what I wanted to share is that we will be sharing a PDF with a framework that can help you get started, or even if you're doing personalization, to take it to the next level. It focuses on the three P's: people, path, purpose, and really kind of tying it all together with not just tools that you should be using, but really the approach, the strategy, and how to convince leadership to get your organization to adopt it and to understand the importance of leveraging it in your company. So, like I said, bear with me. Most of you are at second gear, it seems. We have a good portion at first gear, so I'm glad we're understanding the terminology. And in terms of the challenges and the barriers for implementation, you're saying limited budget or resources, and then lack of clear strategy and leadership buying. Lack of leadership buying is the two coming in afterwards. And the most important outcome for you from website personalization is increasing is growth in pipeline, which is good. I thought you'd jump right to website conversion. So I'm happy to see that we're looking at the right KPIs in terms of growth in pipeline. Of course, website conversions are good. They're a good leading indicator. They're definitely not the reason behind it. So I think this is definitely I'd say a good, healthy outcome. So thank you all for filling this. Hello, any last words?
Yeah, I think I'll end with something that we started with is that personalization is becoming a must, especially if you're bringing in traffic, investing in that, creating content without personalizing the experience of the visitors. You can just lose when it comes to the revenue and the ROI. So that's my recommendation.
Amazing. All right, we're just at time. So thank you so much for joining us. Feel free and reach out to us if you want to book a demo, if you want to start a free trial, if you just want to chat, if you're doing personalization and you're thinking, what can we do better? Hit us up, Halel, and I would love to talk. This is really the stuff that we love. We're passionate about this. So we love to connect and see what we can do. If you're in London, we'll be in London 2 weeks. We have a cocktails class. So if you're into cocktails, hit us up June 3rd, 5:30. That's going to be coming up in London. Halel, thank you very much.
Thank you, Abishai. All right.
All right. Thanks, Vital, and we'll see you all soon.
Thank you, everyone.
Cheers. Bye bye.